Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Bonjour, vous allez bien? Oui? Hi everyone, how are you doing? But you know, we're in Montreal, so I like starting the presentations in French. And I do my best with English, and I learn new words every time I'm with you guys. So my name is Karina. I'm really happy to be your host during this 2024 edition of the Montreal Wood Convention. Welcome to everyone who's live with us. It's a pleasure to have you attending this event from wherever you are, in Canada, US, or maybe elsewhere in the world. In this session should be quite interesting. We have 4 panelists, 4 leaders who accepted to come and share their perspective on the current situation of the wood products industry and in the North American market for building materials. So we will focus on supply and demand, whether the extreme volatility that you have lived through the last few years is it the new norm? And we'll give each panelist time to introduce their company. And of course, we'll have time to answer your questions, whether in the room with our traditional flying mic, otherwise it can be virtually. So maybe a few words to those of you who are online. You can use the platform. In the window you are watching this presentation, you have the question tab, so feel free to send your comments and questions during the presentation. Don't wait until the end, and I'll make sure to read you and bring your questions here to the panelists. I want to say thank you to this sponsor session, the CME Group. Thank you so much. And from the get-go, I would like to introduce and welcome on stage the leader of the discussion. Please welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of Weston Forest, Monsieur Steve Rhone. Welcome, Steve. Welcome. Thank you for, first of all, Weston Forest is the main sponsor of this edition again, so thank you so much for your support to the event.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for moderating the discussion, but from the start, how are you and how do you like this edition?
I'm doing well. I was well behaved and in bed early last night, so I'm in good shape. And thank you to all of you that made it back here this morning. That's fantastic.
That's because you have the experience of Montreal.
I do have a little experience in Montreal, but this has been a great convention. We've had awesome speakers here. The panels yesterday with the economic projections were fantastic. And for those that were up early enough, breakfast with David was fantastic.
Oh, wow. Who was there for David Usher this morning and AI? Did you like it? Awesome, huh?
Not bad to start a convention with a concert.
Yeah. How do you say that in English? It sets the bar?
It set the bar
for next
high.
year, for the people who organize the program, this is a show with David Usher. That's awesome. We would like to highlight the special support that Weston Forest brings to Wolf. We talked a little bit just shortly yesterday. Wolf is Woman of Lumber and Forestry. So we thought with you, Steve, this morning we would tell everyone what is Wolf and why does your company support this organization?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for the opportunity to recognize that in front of the group. I think people have heard about it by now, hopefully, and if you haven't, we want to take a minute to make sure that you did. But the objective of Wolf is to empower, promote, and expand the network of female professionals within the lumber industry. And when I first heard about the idea a few years ago, it was championed by some folks out on the West Coast, and they were looking for support, and I thought it was an absolutely fantastic idea. We're long overdue as an industry to promote more and more participation of women, and it's incredibly exciting to see that happening each and every year. And giving them an opportunity to network together, to support each other, is just something we believe is really the right thing to do.
This is awesome, and we have some women in the room, so welcome to everyone. All right, Steve, are we ready to bring our panelists on stage with us for the discussion?
Absolutely.
Super. So we'll have, it's not a David Usher song that's going to play, but we'll have a great song to welcome the 3 of them. Please, Amar Doman from the Doman Group. You can come up on stage. Jan Fillinger, Interfor, and LT Gibson, US LBM. All right, this is awesome. Thank you, merci so much for attending this event, being physically present here with us in Montreal. You all have fabulous backgrounds and achievements. I want to highlight some of them, just a few of them, so that you get to know them better, and each of you will have the opportunity to introduce a bit of your company. I'll start with you, Amar Doman. You're the chairman and chief executive officer of Doman Group. I was told you were born into the forest products industry in British Columbia. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So, I mean, your family was already in the business at...
Yeah, just real quick, my grandfather came from India in 1906, and he became a logger on Vancouver Island, so our family got into sawmilling and pulp and paper over the years, and I came out of school in the 80s and got my own businesses going.
Wow, that's quite awesome. You bought in 1999 Canwell Building Materials from sawmill operators, Canfor and Wellwood. Canwell went public in 2004 and was renamed Doman Building Materials. You remain the largest and controlling shareholder of the group. And you don't like, you love football. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. I really do.
Do you know why we say so? Some of you? BC Lions!
There it is.
We have fans in the room.
Well, we're in dangerous territory with the Alouettes around here, but yeah. So I figured this interview is going to be all about the sports side of things, right?
That would be fun, huh? So you're the proud owner of the BC Lions and of the Canadian Football League, and you're on the board of governors. So thank you for being with us, and I'll let you introduce your company, please.
Great. So we're just on slide 1. We can forward here. I don't know whether it's...
Yeah, the team will help with so. Alors, prochaine planche, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, perfect. We can roll to the next one. Yeah, so we've got 4 divisions here, which I'll break down for you. So the distribution division that was just mentioned, that was the original Canfor Weldwood distribution business that we bought in the 90s. That's across Canada for distribution. We have our pressure-treated lumber, which is in North America. I'll break that down in a minute. Forest management out in BC, we have a pile of private timberland, so it's not Crown, and we produce posts and poles. We also sell our saw logs to good customers like Ian here. And then we've got our specialty sawmills in the south, which are not commodity sawmills. They are all specialty, making things like fencing, decking, and 1-inch and the like. So that's just kind of a quick overview, and maybe we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so just again, high level here. We're now one of the largest producers of pressure-treated lumber in North America. I'll show you the plants in a minute. We also have distribution across Canada and the U.S. on specialty items. So in the U.S., primarily, we're distributing things that would go into your backyard. So we talk about redwood, composites, fencing items across Canada. We're in everything pretty much that you would put into a new home. And we've got just a list of our top-tier suppliers and top-tier customers that we continue to grow with over the years. Next slide. Okay, here just will be my last slide, but just to kind of show you where we are now. And I think one of the most important things is as we get leverage with our geography, we get leverage with our customers and our suppliers. We're more valuable to each side. So whether we're producing pressure-treated lumber across the U.S., across Canada, we're tied in with those product lines to our customers. And of course, being more valuable to our suppliers is number one as well. Sawmilling isn't something that we're interested in. We like to partner with sawmills. So real quick, I'll go through our operating divisions. So we talked about the 18 distribution centers across Canada. We have our 21 pressure-treated facilities in North America, the 5 specialty sawmills in the U.S. South, 2 planing mills. And then we've got 10 pressure-treating facilities under Doman treated wood. Those are across Canada as well. The 109,000 acres of privately owned managed forest. We bought that. That was old Tembec land we bought in 2016, so coming on 8 years now. Very valuable to us. Having private timber in British Columbia is very rare, and we're very proud of that asset that we own and manage. Honsador Lumber is a business we bought and acquired in Hawaii, so we're the largest supplier into the, home building business in Hawaii, and we have an electrical division there as well. That fits in with our U.S. supply side. So Douglas fir products go from the U.S. Northwest all the way down on barge. Believe it or not, I don't know if you know, but it's kind of an odd fact. It takes 3 weeks. There's 2 guys in a tugboat looking at nothing for 3 weeks, taking lumber down there. It's a long supply chain, but one that ties into us in the Northwest. And then we've got Lignum, which is our specialty wholesale lumber division, which specializes in MSR, cedar, and panels. And that's kind of an overview. We have capacity of about 2.3 billion feet now of treated lumber. We're producing just under 2 billion, and we have 2,200 great team members. And that's my intro, and I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. So I would say from Vancouver, BC, this is where you live. I'll stay in BC somehow because our next guest studied partly, he can tell us more, but in BC, Jan Fillinger, you're a president and chief executive officer of Interfor. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
So a few words, and you can complement to my presentation, but you have more than 30 years of experience in the lumber industry, including at Pacific Forest Products, Riverside Forest Products, and Canadian Forest Products. You joined Interfor in 2005 as general manager. You progressively got senior roles, and you're in charge of the company now, and you travel a lot. We had this discussion prior to stepping on stage, how many times these leaders travel a year. It's quite impressive. So maybe a few words about your background and the company?
Yeah, thank you. I think you covered my background well, so appreciate that. So Interfor is a pure play lumber company, and we have near 30 or so operations across North America in every timber producing region, which is quite unique to have that. So from British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Pacific Northwest in the U.S., and then, of course, in the U.S. South. Interfor is 61 years as a company this year. We've been in the Pacific Northwest, so Washington and Oregon, for 20 years this year, and down in the South, we're into our 11th year. So we've doubled the size of the company in the last few years. Our big platform was to come to Eastern Canada, and we're the third largest lumber producer in North America now. So gone from a small BC company on the coast back in, when we started the company and through the 80s and 90s, and then really in 2013 started to grow the company to where it's at today. Got a great team, and we produce about 5 billion board feet, or our capacity is 5 billion board feet. So that's Interfor.
Thank you for being with us today. And LT Gibson, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So LT Gibson, I'll start saying that you have overseen multiple startups, integrations, and turnarounds for more than 25 years for both small and large companies in the building materials industry. You have founded the company USLBM in 2009. You're the president and chief executive officer of the company. And from the information I got, it started with 3 divisions operating 16 locations. And today, I don't want to jeopardize your presentation, but you have a workforce of over 15,000 associates at more than 450 locations across the country?
Oh, that's right.
I'll let you continue. This is quite impressive.
All right. So actually, unfortunately, it's 35 years, and I will say this is my first time at the convention, and my heart did sink a little yesterday when we were doing the the kind of financial overviews because I had my pamphlet, I opened it, and it was all in French because I didn't know you turn it over. Then she started speaking French, Karina was speaking French, and I was like, I might have been miscast. At best, I could have told you we make a toaster. So then they finally turned, and I said, okay, maybe I can do this. But so we'll go to the next slide. So USLBM, founded in 2009. With those 3 divisions, our first year we did 22 million in sales, and we're proud that over our 15 years now, we've grown to almost 500 locations, 475 plus. We've done 90 acquisitions. We've opened numerous greenfields and just organic growth, and we're in the ballpark a little over 8 billion for this year, and about a quarter of that or a little bit more is in lumber products. So, obviously a lot of our vendors were a customer to many in this room, and we thank you for that partnership. We do have, it's closer to 15,000 now. We've done a few acquisitions maybe since we even put this slide together, and 30,000 unique customers. And as far as the map of where we are today, we'll flip one more slide, and you can see, this is our footprint today. I think what's unique about our company, just given the number of acquisitions, a lot of you have dealt with a lot of the brands that we've bought, for many, many years. We do buy everything centrally as USLBM, which is kind of it's been a migration over the last 5 years. So everybody in here knows Mr. Sullivan. So hopefully, everything goes through him. And as we acquire companies, that will continue to be the case. But we do have a very local feel. for such a big company. We still believe this is a very local industry. When you're dealing with builders and homeowners, in a local geography, there are nuances in how houses are built and how people think and partner in different markets. So we keep that very local approach on the sales side, but on the back end, whether it's purchasing, technology, how we invest, how we train, we do that very much as one company, and we view ourselves very much as one company. We talk only about US LBM internally and the markets. We really leave the brands, for the customers and some of the associates. So that's a quick overview of US LBM today.
Awesome, congrats.
No, thank you.
And of course, I won't miss talking a little bit about Steve Rhone, President and Chief Executive Officer of Weston Forest. You have started your career in the operations team of Weston Forest, if I'm right, because you've been in the company for over 30 years now. You have since held, of course, many management roles in every part of the company. Your knowledge spans everything from the forest to the log deck, the sawmill to distribution, remanufacturing. So you're the good person to be moderating this discussion, of course. It's a pleasure to have you with us for this role. Would you like to say a few words about the group?
Sure, thanks very much, Karina. Yeah, 1987 is when I started, so 37 years ago now, piling lumber in the back of the yard, and have literally done everything in the place since. If you give me the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about what makes up Weston Forest today. So we have our central location, our head location on Torbram Road, Mississauga. That's Weston Forest. We have a number of other locations: Bramwood Forest Products, Northern Industrial Wood, which is in Michigan. We run a logistics division called Open Road Freight Systems. We have Montera Lumber Mills, which is a remanufacturing facility in Bolton, Ontario. Industrial Lumber Sales, which is industrial distribution in Georgia. Oakwood Manufacturing, which is a greenfield remanufacturing site that we've built out in Oakville, Ontario, and King's Wood Products, which is a packaging and specialty wood products manufacturer in Paris, Ontario. So we've been through a consistent growth story for a long time now. All of these acquisitions have been made in the last 9 years, and we're looking forward to continuing to grow the business. We now have about 540 full-time equivalent employees, and it's been a wonderful story and a great experience growing up with an amazing group of people that work wonders every day. Next slide. So the sort of boilerplate, we're the leading distributor and manufacturer of softwood and hardwood lumber, panel products, and finished packaging serving North America. We service a number of different sectors. They're all there. The company goes back to 1953, started as a family business in 1953, and we've been repeatedly awarded a number of, we've been recognized with a number of awards on a regular basis, including Canada's Best Managed Companies, where we have platinum status, the Canadian Business Excellence Awards for private business, and one of Canada's most admired corporate cultures from Waterstone. We're also certified as a great place to work, which is a survey that is done by the employees to share their opinion of whether or not they believe it's a great place to work. And we ensure that we live by our brand promise, which is you'll love doing business with us. So thank you to all of you that do, and for anybody that doesn't, we'd love to talk about it.
Thank you very much. Before I turn the mic to you, Steve, I'll have a special request and a special invitation. The special invitation is for those of you who are standing. If you'd like to be standing, that's all fine. But I want to let you know you can use the alleys and come and join us. There are many seats available here in the room. And this is where the flying mic is flying. So it's a great place to watch the show. And my special request for the four of you will be to hand the mic closer to your it makes it easier for the tech team. They're professionals, but it's going to help. All right, so Steve, I turn the mic to you and have a great discussion. I'll be back for the Q&A.
Great, thanks, Karina. I appreciate it. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here today. I know you all have very busy schedules, and we very much appreciate the wisdom that you're going to share with us today. You represent important parts of the industry. And for the last few years, it's been really a bit of a unique time in this industry. We obviously went through all of the roller coaster ride of the pandemic, and through that we saw wild distortions in pricing through supply and demand dynamics, which caused all kinds of disruptions that were well beyond normal. Now that we're settling into what would be the new normal, whatever normal is going to be, what do you see for trends in supply and pricing dynamics going forward? And maybe, Ian, I'll start with you as you represent supply across North America.
Yeah, sure. On the supply side, I think that the stability in that is going to continue for some time. When we look at the South bringing on capacity, it comes on, but it comes on really slow. So that offsetting what we believe is going to happen in British Columbia, which is more capacity on the supply side, will come out and has to come out. So I think in the short term, we probably won't see a lot of ups and downs. I think it'll be fairly steady. But in the longer term trend, for sure, we see supply tightening a bit with what's going on in BC. Our view in Eastern Canada is it's pretty balanced. The fiber supply, the sawmills, there's a little bit in Quebec that's moving around because of the fires last year, but fairly stable in Eastern Canada. And like I said, in the South, growth, but it comes on a lot tougher. In the Pacific Northwest, a little bit of tightening, I think, in Oregon with some of the government policy going on in Oregon, but relatively stable. They've gone through their rationalization, a long time ago. So message would be stable in the short to medium term on supply, but longer term tightening. And of course, we look at what's coming in from Europe, and we're seeing trending down double-digit percentages over the last few years. But we think that Europe will normalize to that 3 to 5% that it has over many, many years. We think that'll come back into that range. So that would be our view on the supply.
Great, thanks, Ian. And maybe LT, I'll go to you next because you're sort of on the other side of the spectrum as the big consumer on stage here today. What's the demand side of the equation look like?
Yeah, I would say the first thing to remember is there really is there's no U.S. housing market. It's very much just a culmination of local markets. We're seeing a lot of volatility, and it's not necessarily by geography. You could have an area like Dallas, which is doing very, very well, and then close by, it doesn't mean Texas is doing well because Austin is off quite a bit. So I think it's going to be a little bit rocky here for the next 3 to 6 months, just given where interest rates are. I think since the pandemic, obviously, pandemic itself was a really tough time for all of us. I think as a CEO, the first thing we all did was say, how long can we make it with zero sales? And then things came back quickly, and then the supply chains, disrupted in a pretty big way. I think what we should be doing now is learning from all those things. If we go back to what we were before, shame on us. We've got some real advantages here because of the things that happened. There's probably more gross margin in the system than there's ever been. We shouldn't give that back. I know I've got people that sell to me in this room, and I don't want you to give that back. I want you to be profitable. I want you to make money. I want you to invest in technology. I want you to invest in AI and supply chains, and I want the same for us. I know Jim's sitting there going, gosh, he's telling people to charge us more, but it's all relative. If the whole price moves up and we're still buying better than anybody else, we're good with that. So I think that, when you consider labor, the cost of fuel, the cost of really doing everything in the world today is so much more. We owe it to our companies and ourselves and our associates, to make sure that we hold on to the gross margin side of the business that's expanded, and we don't give that back. And I think as far as just the takeaway in volume alone, I know there's been a shift, to the south and some southern yellow pine. But I think what you'll see as soon as interest rates do start to come down in the U.S., you'll see volumes at levels where we need everything. We need the Canadian, products. We need all of the U.S. products. We're going to be around 1.6 million, 1.7 million starts, even to start to chip away a little bit at the underbuild in the U.S. And that really gives us a pretty positive outlook for the next decade.
Well, that sounds optimistic, and all we got to do is make it through another 6 months, and everything's going to be fantastic. Amar, you're somewhere in the middle. You do the supply side, you do a ton of distribution as well. How do you feel about the demand cycle?
Yeah, literally right in the middle. I've got a supplier right over here, and I've got a great customer right over here. So, certainly what we've seen, I'll talk more about now than the past a little bit, but it does seem supply chains have caught up. It does seem that nothing is, less than prompt for delivery now. So that does tell me we're going to have, I think what Ian said, more of a steadier outlook for lumber. I think we're going to have more of a steadier outlook. OSB is a bit of an outlier, but I think for panels as well, we're just into a regular groove of consumption. I think the interest rates being forced up is starting to do its thing a little bit, to LT's point. So, I think we're just going to be in a boring band here for a while. We're not waiting for anything. We've cut our inventories back. When we do talk about COVID days, we learned a lot through that. We learned how we could turn faster because you had to. We found that we could run with less, and we're doing that continually. We have a divisional weekly call every week just to focus on inventories to make sure, because let's face it, everybody in this room, money costs money again, and 0% is a lot different than 5. So we have to make sure we're turning. So we take some of those lessons, apply it to today with the supply chain being caught up, and I don't really see that changing for a while. I think that we're just in a regular good groove, and we're finally there. I don't think that's great for pricing, sadly, for all of us in the room. I think pricing is going to be a little bit soft for the next 6 to 8, maybe 9 months.
Great, thanks, Amar. On the production side, Ian touched on some of it already, but I wanted to bring all of us into the conversation and get some opinions on production. It looks like supply in the U.S. South is obviously developing. That's the one area of the country where we're seeing capability for more wood, and BC's shrinking, and really there's a cap on just about every other geography in North America in terms of what the possibility is, give or take a few billion feet here and there. How do you see that affecting the way wood is distributed, where things come from, species acceptance in different markets, things like that? Maybe LT, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it earlier. I do think there's more production coming out of the U.S. now and on the Southern Yellow Pine front. I think we've seen those trends before where things move around a little bit. At the end of the day, I think we're going to strain the entire supply chain once we get kind of up and running, at the rates we need to. So I think it's a kind of a short-term blip, but I do think there's a little pain over the next 3, 6, 9 months. But I do think once the volumes in the U.S. reach, where they should be, I think we're going to see a pretty good takeaway from all of those markets.
And maybe just get you to ask a little bit about the import from overseas. Is the European wood coming at the same pace? Is it going to keep coming? Is it going to shrink? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to revert back to kind of where it was. It's it's pretty expensive to get it over here. I think it's at the end of the day, I always look at a supply chain and think about what's the most efficient way. I know there are always some odd things that people can do, but somebody's subsidizing a cost to make something unnatural happen in a supply chain. It makes perfect sense for North American housing to be built by North American lumber.
Well, that sounds positive, Ian, for your stable of sawmills. Anything to add that you didn't already throw out before?
Yeah, I guess when we're talking about production and we talk about the South and how great it is down there, bringing on production in the South is really hard, and investments take a long time. And the startups of those investments, in our experience, take longer than they do in other jurisdictions. And if you look back to the hottest lumber markets in our history, I think the South was only able to, and I might have a percent wrong here, produce 2 to 3% more. So in the best markets ever, when you want to be hitting your sawmills, trying to run them 24, adding shifts on Saturdays, doing whatever you can to get that lumber out at those prices, we're only able to get it up 2 or 3%. So it is hard. So I think, as much as we enjoy the South and love the South for what it does on the log side of it, production does not come on easy. And we have turnover rates with employees on the front lines and in maintenance that are astronomical in some regions. In some regions we're fine, but it's not uncommon for us to be talking about 4 or 5 mills that have turnover rates between 50 and 90%. That's unbelievable. Can you imagine trying to run a plant when you have 50 to 90% turnover? And so, when you put those investments in, you've got a group that hasn't done a lot of capital projects, so you've got to really support that. You got to put the training in, and then you're hiring constantly. So, just if we think that the South is really the home run here, I think it's going to improve, but it's going to be very, very slow. And the history tells us. I mean, in COVID, we really couldn't add any hours, couldn't add production to any significant amount as an industry. So that's what I would add on the production side.
Well, thank you. And maybe to that point, we've also seen some people in the U.S. South rationalizing production recently, which, given that it's the lowest cost wood basket at the moment, or that's what we're being told, you'd think that'd be the last place somebody would be cutting production until they absolutely had to. But I think we've got the potential to have operators that are looking at things a little bit differently than they did before, maybe through some of the consolidation and just keeping a little better control on that market. Do I have that right?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about that at dinner last night with the discipline that consolidation brings, and you look at the business differently. You can take more of a macro view sometimes, and if you're maybe a smaller company or an independent company, you might take more risk. And I think as we're consolidating as primary lumber manufacturers, we are bringing discipline to inventory, like Amar was talking about, and driving those down, looking at operations from profitability, and I know our competitors are doing the same things, and you're absolutely correct. We're seeing the region that everybody thought would never take downtime or permanent closures starting to, those uncompetitive mills are starting to shutter, and at the end of the day, that's a good thing, I think, for the industry. Tough on employees and communities, but consolidation really does force those type of decisions, and I think they're great, to bring the discipline to the industry. It's a industry where you've got the lumber manufacturers at one end, and you've got the customers on the other, and you got a web of people that probably like the craziness of the industry and make money on that, but it sure hurts the lumber manufacturer and the customer, or the end-use customer. And I think that the more that our companies can work together and stabilize that, the better the industry will be.
That's interesting, because I think the pain is in the movement at one end or the other, and the opportunities in the movement for the people in between. So, Amar, you're the example of the in-between, and you touch on all of those products that we've talked about throughout your organization, dealing with panels, offshore, southern yellow pine, spruce, west, east. What's your thoughts on the supply situation?
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit earlier, but I just kind of want to go back into what Ian was talking about, and that is, employees and trying to find and train. We've got operations all over North America, and that's a constant challenge. We have had turnover rates, maybe not quite that high as 50 to 90%, but it's hard to maintain employees. There's a lot of different opportunities for them. We're dealing with serious wage inflation, no matter what the economy is doing. It continues to strain us trying to find people and hire them, and more importantly, keep them and have careers for these people. And it's a challenge for us. I think that's our number one challenge, more than the supply side of things, Steve. It's really trying to keep people, train people, and say that there can be a good career in our industry. And that's a challenge that we have. And I think as an industry, we can do a lot more. I'm going off track on your question a little bit, but I think that if we put more investment and time, and we have to do this ourselves, so I'm talking to myself here as well, into trade schools and different things where people are interested. And Steve, you and I started piling lumber, and I think once people get a taste of going into the industry, it's like a fraternity. I think a lot of people in this room have been here a long time. It's a great fraternity, and it's a long career where you really build good relationships. It's a good place to be, so I think we need to continue to try and foster that, and I think that will help the supply chain. It'll help the customer side, and everything we're trying to do in the middle of it being specialty guys.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we joke a lot internally about the lumber business and how we get started, and the saying that we have is that you're either born into it or you fall into it, and you were born into it, I fell into it. But to your point, it's a fantastic fraternity, it's a great career, it's a great opportunity, and figuring out how to make that known to more people out there is something we really do have to work on. I want to switch gears a little bit maybe and talk a little bit about the companies that are represented here on stage and give you a chance to talk about what you do that is special about building winning organizations, because you represent some amazing success stories. At Weston, we focus on our culture and we invest in our culture by putting our people first, and we spend a lot of time and effort on that. Would you like to share any examples of what's special within your organizations and key things to work on other than finding new people? Maybe Amar, we'll start with you.
Sure. We've been growing through acquisition and organically, but one of the things that I think is part of our secret sauce is when we go in, we really analyze the business, but also take best practices. We don't come and acquire a business and say we know everything. We come in and say, geez, what can we learn from this operation we just bought? What do these employees know? Our new team members come on board. We really like to see that idea sharing and where can we learn. And I think cross-pollinating that and let everybody know they have a voice when we do an acquisition is key to our success, and really taking the good and also sharing our good and what we think we know and then growing that. And I think in an organization, having that open culture of everybody can be a boss, everybody can be smart. There's an open window to all of us, no matter what level we're at in the company, to talk. And I think just having that freewheeling culture is good. We like to reward our employees on profitability and margin, and I think that keeps everybody rolling the oars the right way in our business. So I think just a few of those metrics, we like to keep it fresh, and we like to be growing. We're glad we're public. We like to have our equity out there as a report card and have all our employees own stock. We have an employee share option plan as well, so guys can buy stock at a discount, and it's a great program. We have a lot of people on. I would say almost 80% of our employees now are shareholders, which we really like, and I think offering them discounted stock is a great way to bind us to try and have these employees for a long time. As I mentioned earlier, it's getting harder and harder, so we need to have more levers, but I think those are just a few ingredients, Steve, that we try to bring to the table.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure the shareholders are happy. I see the dividend percentage; it's not too bad. LT, what's special happening at USLBM?
Yeah, so I'll echo a little bit what Omar said. That we do a lot of acquisitions. We tend to be we're a lean-based company. We're a best practice-based company. We don't come in and say this is the way you do everything. We know everybody that we partner with, there's something they do really well, and we want to take that throughout the rest of the organization. But what we add that to is a company that's dedicated to change, not, changing ourselves, changing the industry. We know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, this industry is going to operate very differently. Not only is there going to be consolidation, there's going to be technology. We invest as a group through technology. And because of that, we train our associates. We bring, associates in from universities, from trade schools. There's a lot of turnover in the U.S., but if you pay your people well and you train them well and build really a culture that's built for growth, it can be exciting for everybody. And I think when we do that and get it right, we're able to retain our best associates. So we kind of lead with culture, and we feel like we're not only a great place to work, but a great place to be for the future.
Fantastic, thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thanks. So for Interfor, and I think the way that we try to run the company and keep people engaged and develop value for our shareholders is to really keep it simple and focus on the basics. At the end of the day, we're foresters and loggers and log supply to mills, to sales, to customers. And so we group that as operationally focused. So, the heart of Interfor is in operations and in that system and driving the basic KPI performances and measuring against those and then rewarding those. So, Interfor, I would say, is a highly focused operating company, and we're working on that every day. We talk about it every week, every day, every quarter with our employees. I would say the other things that we focus in on to add value and grow the company is we try to build high performance work teams. So we have similarly to the examples, we have peer groups in different areas of the company that are sharing best practices, whether it's kiln drying or customer development or product development or whatever the main things are. So we're connecting people, and we're trying to build this high performance culture. The other one is we spend a lot of time as a company thinking about our shareholder and cash allocation and where to put that into projects, whether it's stock buyback, whether it's considering a dividend or special dividends. We really try to maximize our return on capital for our shareholder through all of those and some of the operating things that I talked about. And then the focus on trying to take the craziness out of the business and get stability. Anything that we can do to bring diversity. So the move to Eastern Canada and Atlantic Canada was a big one for us, but we saw SPF volume going away in British Columbia. The only other place that in the world you're going to get that is in Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick. And so we saw that as a chance to get earnings stability through the geography strategy that we put in. So really 4 buckets, and really that's our strategic plan. It really can be done on one slide. It's the 4 things that I just ran through. So keeping that in front of our teams, always talking about it, measuring it from head office to our sales teams to our operating teams and our Woodlands folks.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks for sharing. And getting your strategic plan into something you can articulate in 4 bullets and 1 slide is probably one of those things that drives a successful organization, is being able to clearly communicate to such a large group of employees. Next topic is AI. Who didn't guess we were going to ask about AI? It's a topic in every boardroom today, and with good reason. It's obviously something that's here, and it's going to have impact on the world. But I'm curious, where do you see it having impact on our industry? Is there any examples? Is there anything that you've been able to apply so far or would like to share with the group? Ian, maybe we'll start with you.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'm not sure. I don't want to make a shot at our board of directors, but I don't think they understand AI. So
I'm not sure we do either.
Yeah, I'm not the greatest either, but so AI on the manufacturing side has, as the rest of my teammates up here, I mean, we're using that in machine center learnings, adjustments going on, real time, decisions, optimization, and so that I would say we're really well advanced on that through some of the suppliers to the sawmills and the woodlands. It's actually quite amazing. And so we've got this sort of core strength there. For us, kind of what we're thinking about is, how can we use AI for really 2 things that we're starting with. One is on the admin side. And so if you're a logger in British Columbia and you have a code of books that you got to go through to lay out a cut block, and we're finding that AI can help that person digest that, get the permit developed, and save hours and hours of work. So we're testing that out on that side. Obviously, the legal side also, and admin work, we have that under review, and we're forming super user committees on those. But the other second component for us that we think, is how do you get better insight to what the price of lumber, will be in the short, medium term. And the more that we can understand that and get better intel through AI, the better we can make decisions for our employees and our shareholders. So we've recently formed an AI committee. I'm on it, our CFO is on it, and our head of IT is on it. And we're just starting to explore into those areas in a formal way. We've had super users on it, but they've kind of been under the radar because they don't want to get in trouble and have an IT phishing thing or get attacked. So we're making it more comfortable as a conversation in our company. But on the manufacturing and logging side, I'm very comfortable that the teams there right at the top of the industry when it comes to what's available. So.
Great, thanks for sharing, Ian. And if you get that price prediction model figured out, if you want to share that with me, that'd be really appreciated.
We'll open up some futures accounts right away.
Amar, what are your thoughts on AI?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. We're starting to see a little bit come through our chemical suppliers. We have 33 treating plants, and onboarding someone to learn how to treat the lumber. We think there's going to be some good technologies that come through, but other than that, from sort of what we do and we're at, we don't see a lot of it yet. I still think, as we all know, we're in kind of the first inning of this thing, and I think over the next 3-4 years, we're going to see it develop very, very strong in certain industries, and it's also going to create some challenges out there as well. But really, we're just kind of putting our toe in the water a little bit with it on the treating side.
LT, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I think, again, definitely we're scratching the surface. I think ultimately what you'll see is AI is going to help us perfect, the entire supply chain. It's going to, go start to, finish on demand planning. I think it's going to help us. You don't need AI to tell you if you're pricing something at a loss, you're not going to last very long. But I do think it will help us, realize, not only what we need and where we need it, but just make us more efficient in general. For us, what we're most excited about, we have a ton of data, as you can imagine, with the size of the company now. But AI can actually scrub that data. Our goal is to sell the whole house to every builder. It shows us where those gaps are, and it may be gaps in the outside salesperson's knowledge level because they're not comfortable selling certain products. It may be that certain markets have different expectations of certain products. So AI kind of identifies those gaps, and then we go and use that data to pursue it even deeper. I think that just continues. I think AI is going to really be a big part of the supply chain as far as demand planning, but I also think it's going to be a big part of sales management going forward.
Yeah, that's a great use case, and augmenting people's ability to do their job a little bit better, I think. And there's a lot of fear out there that we're just going to eliminate everyone's job, and I don't believe that's really true. There are going to be some jobs maybe that go away, and maybe some that are actually a good thing that we can replace. I heard something in a seminar that really stuck with me, and that there was 3 words that sort of describe the applications for AI, and it's either something that's dull, dirty, or dangerous. And if we could put an AI to work in those applications, and if you think of the dull part of your day, and all of us do things that we'd rather not do because they just have to get done, and if we could figure out how to make AI do that part of our day every day, how much more productive and energized and engaged would we be as individuals, contributors, employees? And if you take away the dirty and the dangerous work and make that autonomous and have people manage that from safety, wouldn't that be a great thing if we could get that looked after? So that made a lot of sense to me and resonated with me. I thought I would share. Want to give everyone on stage a chance to talk about something that I didn't decide we were going to talk about. So give each of you a chance to share with the audience something that we haven't touched on today that you think might be important or relevant or interesting. LT, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the only thing I might mention is just, our industry, historically has been seen as a kind of a sleepy industry that moves slowly with, not only adoption of technology, but just, how companies operate. I think we've reached a pivotal point, and I think COVID kind of drove this forward. I think technology is going to play a bigger role. I think consolidation is going to play a bigger role. If you look at any $200 billion supply chain like building products is, you will see usually 30, 40, $50 billion players. We don't have that, but we've got some that are on their way. I think you'll see a lot of consolidation on the manufacturing side, on the sawmill side. And, I think, in a way, I know some of you are probably with independents thinking this is a bad thing, but it should be a good thing. It should, help create, an easier and more predictable and more disciplined supply chain that's good for everybody to operate in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, as I talked about earlier in the presentation, just a little bit about consolidation. I think that's exactly right. The big will get bigger through different cycles. I think that's a good thing at the end of the day. And I also think it'll help create more knowledge and awareness around the business when you have that M&A activity happening. Weaker players go away, that's just fact. And then the stronger will get stronger. And we started to consolidate our industry a number of years ago, and we're rapidly going to try and become one of those larger partners to our supply chain on either side of it, whether it's the customer side or whether it's the supply side of things with our great sawmill partners. So we're going to continue to be aggressive and grow and stay ahead of everything, invest in technology, invest in our employees, and really grow the industry and what we're trying to do. So we feel like we're in about the third inning of a 9-inning game, and we're just going to keep going at it and investing in the great business that we're in.
And Ian, you believe in the consolidation side of things?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't have much to add. I mean, I think stability keeps coming up, and the more that all of us, try to work on that, I think the better off we'll be. I mean, it is hard to attract an investor to a company in the lumber business. The volatility is not a premium. And so, when people look at where they're going to put their money and invest, whether it's private capital or public, it's a hard story to sell. 1 year you're doing really well, the next year you're fighting for everything. And so you often get, the investor that's in and out on you, and that's not good for, maybe a little bit of that is good, but you want those long-term investors, and the more that we can work as an industry to get away from the highs and the lows and try to just get that stability in the supply chain is which I'm hearing from everyone here is very encouraging, and I think we're learning and we're more open to that now when we're having conversations with customers or our suppliers.
Maybe to LT's point earlier, let's not forget what we just learned over the last couple of years and what's possible, and make sure that we don't go back to doing everything the way we used to do things, because there is an opportunity to do it a little bit better each time we go through an experience. Ian, anything else we didn't touch on today that you want to share?
Well, the Interfor, our growth has really, positioned us differently, and I think as a company we're starting to learn what the size and the geographical diversity is bringing us. So our synergies are starting to kick in now. We're the largest stud producer in the world and the largest MSR producer. And so not a lot of people know that. And inside our company, I don't think we knew that right away. And then we started doing the math, and wow, we are kind of this point. So yeah, I just think that Interfor is in a great position. We got the best team possible, and I think everybody will say the same thing, but I believe it. We're just feel like we're hitting our stride as a really big, dominant player in the industry, and looking forward to partnering with people in this room and other suppliers and customers and continuing the conversation.
Great, thank you. Amar? Last chance, share anything on your mind that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I don't want to ramble on anything, but I just want to thank everybody for hearing our stories here a little bit, and also just learning a little bit more about our company and what we're doing and how we're growing. And certainly we're a company that likes the forest side of things, building product side of things, and we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to continue to invest and grow the business through acquisition and organically. So we're certainly excited about the future. We know we go through peaks and valleys. I've been through a ton of them in 30 years, and we know that things look a little rocky short term, but I think long term, and also through COVID, we realized how important your household is and how people want to stay at home more. They do want to do more things in their backyard or do a home improvement project, and I don't think that's going to change. I think COVID forced us into our homes and made us realize that, and I think coming out of that, that's a good thing long term for us. So I just want to say thanks to everybody, and I'll pass it over to LT.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I started this off, but I'd certainly echo the thank you. I mean, it's not only great to be here, great to be with all of you, but I appreciate the time, and I know we've got some Q&A, so I'll leave time for that.
We'll do that. We're maybe a couple minutes early, but that'll give everyone plenty of time to ask questions. If you don't have any, I'm sure we can make up a few more. But Karina?
Yeah, I join you, and you all deserve a great round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. So questions from the room. We have the flying mic, and online I have my cell phone to read you, so please feel free to send anything. Oh, all right. And would like you to introduce yourself, please.
My name is Brian Casey. I'm with Centurion Lumber in Calgary. My question is for Mr. Doman and Mr. Fillinger. Steve had touched on young people coming into this business. You either fall into it or you're born into it. My question for you two gentlemen, going forward, what would your plan be to attract young people and young women into this industry? Because I'm not in it too long, maybe 5 years, but my father's been in it for 45, and all the young guys that I talk to, their dads are either mill owners or they're executives in their companies. So what kind of plans do you guys have to attract young people, not just to your companies but to this business?
Yeah, I think number one, we do a poor job of not showing up at enough schools, whether it's universities or trade schools. I talked about that a bit earlier. We need to be in front of it in showing our industry, because it's an industry that sometimes is hard to find. It's just, as mentioned, it can be viewed as dull, not an exciting place to go, but it is an exciting place to go. We talk about those relationships and things. So we need to get our HR focused more on being present at job fairs or creating job fairs. We're doing that now in certain operations. We found great success. We held one recently in the United States, and we had over 200 people show up. During COVID, we couldn't get anybody because everybody was busy, obviously, but we need to do more of that. And then I really believe also through word of mouth, just like your family, trying to tell people that have been in the industry or around it, or they're truck drivers, wherever they are, come in and have a look and apply and just take a look. So I think it's on us. We just have to do a lot more to be more visible, and I'll let Ian answer.
Yeah, so I would say that I'll give an example in the hourly, and then the question around women. On the hourly in the South, what I'm very proud of the team that did down there was we started our own trade school. And so for the trades, whether you're in Monticello, Arkansas, or Bay Springs, Mississippi, when we're hiring and we can show off the street folks a career path, and often folks that want to get into trades, that we actually have a trade school developed at one of our sites, and we fly hourly people from all across the country to do their trades training in Perry, Georgia. And then it's a 3-year program, and at the end they're red sealed into maintenance. So that's one example, and there's many others that we're doing on the hourly side. On the hiring women into the workforce, people will talk about, well, we got to hire at the ground level and provide the opportunities going up, and that's one strategy. But I think the best strategy is when you can put a woman, female leader in a spot in your company that's visible. She just attracts that talent. And so I think the more that we can look for when there's a vacancy to be open at an executive, VP level, manager level, the level where decisions are made on hiring, we find that we have greater success when we have women that are in those positions. I think they interview, they listen differently, and are able to attract more women into our workplace. So I think looking for every opportunity to put a female into, or a woman into a hiring decision position in your company is probably the faster way.
Thank you.
If I may, when you shared your stories, you said the industry is at turning point, AI is important, we don't all know how it works, but is it something that can be attractive to younger people? Like there's an opportunity to help the industry, the leaders, the SMEs also, but to elevate their capacities in terms of technology? Would it be a...
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the answer for the industry is technology. Go back 15 years and say, okay, you're in New York City, the taxi industry. What's worse, lumber industry, taxi industry? Probably would have been close tie. But now, with Uber, with Lyft, everybody thinks it's the coolest thing, right? And it's the only difference is technology. The same with us. I think technology is going to drive us to not only making more young people want to work for us, it'll drive more diversity in the workforce. So that's really where the investment needs to be is technology, and we have to recruit differently than we did before.
Yeah, I'd just add, if I can, that I think the other thing, we're in an industry that's in a position to tell a good green story now that is being accepted out there as we have the most carbon-friendly building product on the planet in lumber. And when I started in this business, there was a spotted owl crisis, and if you cut down a tree, you know, somebody should lock you up or shoot you. And it's come full circle where we're really telling the green story. And I think that's something that if we do a better job of telling that story is going to attract more young people in general to the business.
Oh, that's interesting. You said we should do a better job at sharing this information. People don't know that much.
I think it's coming around, but there's still an entire generation or two that believe that everything that we do with wood is destroying things, whereas it is really the most sustainable product on the planet for using for building products.
You know, I can add to that. I've got 3 kids, 14, 12, and 10, and my 10-year-old came from school the other day and said, "Dad, well, we're involved in cutting trees somewhere, right?" And I said, "Yeah, pretty heavily." And well, the teachers are saying this is all bad, and you know, you guys are bad people, and you shouldn't be doing this. And so, to Steve's point, which is a great point he just brought up, we do need to talk more about being carbon friendly. I told him how many million trees we plant a year, how North America has more forest than it's ever had. That fact isn't out there. You know, it is the best renewable product out there for building products and will continue to be. And I think we need to definitely sell that more because there's brainwashing going on at a young age, and you know, we have to fight that tide every day.
And to your point about being in the schools, I think that's absolutely the right thing to do, but maybe even at a younger age, right? Maybe at high school, maybe even elementary school, and not just for the students, but for the teachers too, who need to be re-educated a little bit.
So if we have a communications agency representative in the room, there's a challenge here.
I will say, you know, when my kids ask the same question, I used broccoli as the analogy for lumber. I said it takes a little longer to grow the tree than it does broccoli, but it's really the same thing. We plant it to use it, and we use it. They got it, but then they said, you know, we shouldn't grow broccoli either.
My daughter would love that. My son might not. He likes broccoli. My daughter won't eat it.
All right. Before I go back to the room, I invited people who are alive to send us a question, and we have one coming from Corey Payne. What is an example of your companies investing in technology in the past year, and why did you put your dollars there?
I can jump into that one, perhaps. We acquired a business that was Texas-based back in 21, but in the last 18 months, we've put in the DMSI system there to all the 20 plants and the 5 specialty sawmills we have, and it was put in 7 months. It's been executed very well, and you know, it was a big cost for us to do it and a big gamble of putting it all in at once. And I got to say that because technology has come so far, the implementation was smooth. I was worried that we're not going to be able to print a bill and do all those easy things, but it's come such a long way that it really reinforced my belief in investing in technology, and we're looking at Canada and refreshing what we're doing here as well. But certainly without the technology, and to your point earlier about attracting people, we've attracted a lot more younger people now in when they see the systems or they hear what we're using as far as cutting edge technology for the businesses that we're in. It's a great thing to invest, so that's kind of our most recent one.
Yeah, so I won't mention the really cool stuff because we're still private and we can keep secrets, and it kind of, you know, we get to work on stuff before everybody knows. But I'll give a plug to a Canadian company. So we use Descartes, and we've invested, you know, a tremendous amount of effort into Route Planner, which basically is an automated route planning system. And what it really allows you to do is, rather than, you know, think about how many deliveries that, you know, we have a day. You know, we have hundreds and hundreds of trucks going to, you know, thousands of customers. It takes all of those, puts them together, and plans the best and most optimal route and saves you miles. You know, we believe when it's company-wide, we'll save about 800,000 miles a year. So tremendous impact from an ESG standpoint, from a green standpoint. But it also allows for the next level, which is really AI becoming the dispatcher for the company. You know, to look for ways to say, you've got to pick up here on a route, move this ticket from this location to this because you've got the same product and you've got a delivery on Tuesday that's just this close, so move it from Tuesday to Monday. All the things dispatchers could never do in the past, you know, the system can do in seconds. So, you know, that's a real heavy investment. It does also translate into an app that tells our customer every product they have, where it is, exactly when it'll be on the job site, if that truck gets stuck in traffic 2 minutes, it'll change the delivery time, from 12:04 to 12:06. It's pretty much like, Uber on basically on a lumber delivery.
It sounds like a very cool system that obviously is adding value.
Yeah, for us, I guess I would use the example. I mean, our biggest cost is our logs, and so we're heavy into LiDAR when it comes to laying out, blocks and roads, and being able to understand the most efficient way to get logs, out of the bush and into the mill. So we engage in that. In the mill side, we have over the last several years spent anywhere from 100 to 250 million in capital projects, modernizing the mills from the log deck right through to the lumber truck. So that's ongoing all the time. But one kind of cool thing that, when I talked about the challenges of people and hiring, we're just developing a tool to be able to look at where our mills are and look at employment trends around those areas, and then try to target the most likely employee, age, marital status, all those sort of things, which is available out there to target job fairs in certain areas or certain counties or certain towns. So we're trying to use technology to address one of the biggest issues we have, which is hiring and retaining people. So that's developing, and we've got a good team working on that right now. One cool thing that's being talked about is, particularly in the South, is targeting, working with some of the local churches and the pastors and the congregations with them. So we're trying to also figure out, some of those strategies to hire the right people.
Super. Any other question in the room? Yeah, we have one at the back. Where's the flying mic? Okay, right at.
It's a big through.
Super.
Got to do a connect.
So is that good enough for the BC Lions?
No.
Okay. My name is Bavji. I'm the CFO at Richmond Plywood. My question's for Amar. So in 2004, you decided to go public. So at our mill, we're a cooperative with shareholders as well, where over 250 shareholders invested $500,000 to be shareholders in the mill. What decided you to go with listing public opposed to other structures that were available?
Yeah, there was a few things that we thought through before we did that. Number one was I really wanted our employee base to be able to be owners along with myself. I felt that was some part of a culture I wanted to develop, an ownership type culture. So that would certainly tick the box. Number two, access to capital and profile. I think being public, along with some of the challenges you have being in a fishbowl all the time, there's also a real big upside to your profile, access to capital, access to acquisition opportunities. You're kind of on the map a little bit more than if you're private. Not saying that either path is right or wrong. And then thirdly, just having your report card out there with your stock kind of pressures you a little bit all the time. Sometimes that can be a distraction if you allow it to be, but if you don't, it's always out there for you to look at. So I think that's important. And I think when you're able to use equity for acquisition sometimes when it makes sense, when it's accretive to your business, you can do that. But you're really on the stage a little bit more than being private. And those are kind of the reasons why we took that plunge, and we have not regretted it whatsoever.
Perfect.
Thank you.
One more question. You made a reference to baseball earlier, 3 out of the 9 innings. Does that mean that BC is going to be getting a baseball team soon too?
Yeah, there's some rumors about that, but I know the city of Montreal is pushing for a major league team to come back here as well. But there is some chatter about Vancouver, and we'll see where that goes.
Thank you.
Interesting. You have good questions. More questions. Yeah, right behind you. There's someone in the other part, please, of the room. Super. Can you move closer? Maybe we can see you from here. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Suleiman from Best Tropical Woods, family business. So my question is about AI and productivity. So you guys mentioned that you're trying to get more young people into the industry, but at the same time, AI objective is to increase productivity. But when the productivity increases, more people are going to have to be let go. So how you guys plan on managing that, like increasing productivity with AI, but at the same time keeping jobs safe, in the way that the industry doesn't lose human resources. So that's my question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the challenge we have is we don't have enough people, right? We don't have enough people that understand the industry. We don't have enough good people that can manage processes. I think what AI will allow us to do is take some of those people, even if we have to retrain somewhat, but we need all of the good people we can get. So I don't think it'll actually be a reduction. I think it may be some pivots in some careers for people, but ultimately I think it'll be a good thing. And I think it'll ultimately raise wages, it'll raise productivity, and it'll make this a more healthy industry just in general.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're going to have to lose any people. We're all talking about the fact that we need to hire more people. And so if we can make your job a little more productive and give you a little more time to focus on something else, maybe we do need a couple less people, but we don't have them today. So this is just going to help solve the problem.
Maybe yeah, okay, super. So you have a challenge now. We have 2 questions, but right in front of the room. Are you good to send it until here, until the stage? Let's go. Oh, teamwork.
Intercepted.
Yeah. I'm going to see you after class here.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Terry Miller with Miller Wood Trade Publications. My grandfather started our business in 1927 in the hardwood business, and we're also now helping the softwood industry market their wood products as well. And I'm very proud of that fact. But with that said, and Steve knows this, there's been a tremendous reduction in hardwood production as well as use. And at my youthful age of 60 plus, when I grew up, everybody had hardwood floors, they had hardwood moldings. And in LT, this is really going to be directed to you. I'm curious because you have so much influence with all your different locations and facilities and touching builders and repair and remodeling. Do you play in the S4S program, and do you also perhaps have like hardwood moldings for people to see? Because it's out of sight, out of mind. And I'm just curious what your thought is, because I think again, we're all great stewards of our forest lands. We manage them, and they're on a sustainable basis. So I'm just curious what your point, or
yeah, I mean,
there opportunities?
We certainly, a lot of our locations, it really is by geography of where it's kind of in style. But I think, it's very much like fashion. It kind of goes in cycles. I think people love the color and warmth of real wood. I think you're still seeing a lot of it. A lot of it's just engineered, right? They're using a lot more veneers and things. I think it's going to go in a cycle. I think we'll get to a point where we're using more hardwoods on the interiors of homes. We're starting to see a little more, of the stain grade moldings go out in certain geographies. But I just think it'll be, we went through a little paint grade cycle there, but I think it's coming back where everything looks more natural. If you go into kind of high-end commercial buildings, you're seeing more and more wood. I think that'll translate to the home as well.
And if I may, I just want to plug for this group. There's, and I think Steve's also familiar, there's a lady here called Allison DeFord with the North American Forest Foundation, and she is teaching kids, with support, financial support, trying to tell our story for those of you that don't know it, to help take down the obstacles of the fact that we are good stewards of our timberlands, and we manage our timberlands for a sustainable basis. So for what it's worth, I just wanted to make that plug.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think your neighbor here on the same row wants to.
Yes, I'm Dale Barch with Highmark Wood, and we have a small company, and we specialize in Western red cedar. Well, my question is, I've asked AI, but they don't know the answer, and I'm hoping a real intelligence might. We have a softwood lumber duty, ADD and CVD, that really affects our business negatively. And I just wondered, do you guys have any ideas when this might have some resolution?
There's a loaded question.
Why are you looking at me?
I think that's for you, yeah.
No.
I was going to say, and no is the right answer.
No, the U.S. coalition, if you want to get a deal done, you got to deal with the coalition in the U.S., and that's just there's no open dialogue between Canada and that group. On the Canadian side, I would say the majority of the industry, so more than 50% of the production in the industry, which Western Red Cedar is represented in those groups. There's discussions about what something could look like, but the legal route is the only route that's really in front of us right now. So there is a possibility, and I think it's in about a year from now, where a ruling may go in the favor of Canada, and that would ensure that the coalition wouldn't be able to access money. The Department of Commerce would keep it, and then Canada would get a portion back also, and that might be a time where talks could happen, but the short answer is no.
All right, it's about to come to an end. I would like to ask a final question to each of you, the four of you. Last year when we ended the discussion, I was curious to ask the leaders, so I will ask the same question. If, based on your life experience, your business experience, and in the industry, but as a leader of big organizations, if you had to do something different to start over, and it's a large question. But is there an insight you say, I would probably do this a little different, and just to hear from your experience, who wants to break the ice on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I think you could probably tell by what I've said already that I think we would have used more technology sooner. I think we could be further down the road. I think it's going to be a race now, a little bit of an arms race around technology. But I think if we'd have done some things earlier, we'd be that much farther towards reaching our goals and maybe changing the industry in some ways. So, fast and furious is what I would say on the tech side for all of us.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't know if that's a regret, but I'd certainly say that, there's the old saying, never waste a downturn. And I think, as we get a little bit older and more experienced, you can't know what you know now and apply it backwards. But certainly there's some risks. I look back and say we should have done this or could have done this, but that should have, would have, and maybe your balance sheet was different and whatnot. But I think one of the things I've learned over the years that I would not change, though, is taking the risks. And I think when I speak to students a lot as well, it's about taking risks in life. And we've taken risks all the way along. We take them every day in business. And I think the people that don't are going to shrink, and the people that take those risks, if they can manage them, will continue to win. So I would just certainly say continue to take risks. Maybe there's a few that I wish I had have done, but I can't really change that now. But what you can do is live in the moment and take risks today, and I encourage people to do that.
For us, or for me, I would say that the people side is the biggest one. And I think LT said it, where each region or each builder is a little bit different. For us, each mill is a little bit different. Each project's a little bit different. So assuming that what might work in one area is going to work in the other area if you just do the exact same thing, that doesn't happen. And so paying more attention to the local dynamics, different skill sets and talents, and designing investment plans around that. We've learned that, and that would be one. I mean, we've all made many mistakes that we've learned from, but that would be one that, if I could redo it a little bit differently, I would probably focus a bit more on that.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I can honestly say I love what I do, so I have no regrets of what I've done to get here. If I had to do some things over, it would be maybe to learn from some of those mistakes a little faster. At a young age, I thought I knew a lot, and a few years later, I realized I didn't know that much. And if I'd learned that lesson a little bit sooner, that might have helped me along the way. And then I've been a big proponent of telling people about work-life balance, but maybe not being so good at executing that myself, and maybe a little more focus on that.
We say salute. I want to thank your humility, your generosity being on stage, and being that much open to share your experience, personal one, and then the business one. Thank you so much. A big round of applause for our leaders. And on this, I would like to invite Martin Hull. He's an associate at PWC. PWC wants to offer to each of the panelists a gift. It's made of wood. We haven't opened it yet, so you'll discover.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. And Steve, I want to thank you for leading the discussion. It's way appreciated. Again, before you leave the stage, I want to say thank you to the CME Group for sponsoring this panel discussion, Weston Forest for being our partner for this edition of the Montreal Wood Convention, and all the sponsors. And if I may, I'll say again the names of the hosts of the Montreal Wood Convention: the Ontario Forest Industry Association, the Maritime Lumber Bureau, the Quebec Forest Industry Council, and the Quebec Wood Export Bureau. I will close it here and say a few words to those of you who are in the room for the next activities. But for now, again, thank you so much. So while they take a photo here on stage, I want to remind everyone that the trade show is open until 12:30, so you still have 40 minutes if you want to meet. And the buffet lunch is starting in about 10 minutes in the Place du Canada room, thanks to LBM Advantage. At 2 p.m. this afternoon, we invite you to attend the Montreal Wood Convention after show. Everybody wins. It's sponsored by White River, Matériaux Blanchette, and Cardinal Sawmill Equipment. It's going to be happening in Square Victoria Room at 2 p.m. And this is my last intervention, so it was a pleasure to see you again this year. Hopefully we meet next year. Take care and have a good evening.